All right, well, good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular scheduled March meeting of the Haymarket Planning Commission, Wednesday, March 1, 2017. Roll call, please.
Just 2 seconds, Matt.
Very good.
Okay, Mr. Shannon,
Here.
Ms. Carroll,
Here.
Mr. Carroll,
Here.
Ms. Passanello,
Here.
Mr. Leek,
Here.
Mr. Caudle,
Here.
Mr. Panthy. He is absent.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if we could all please stand for Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oops, standing.
All right, thank you. You may be seated. All right, first order of business tonight is the minutes approval. I don't see them here.
Right here, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. We will move to item number 4, citizens' time. So if any citizen would like to address the planning commission. Okay, good. All right, just come to the podium over there, give us your name, your address, and we appreciate you all coming. This looks like a record for the planning commission, so I do appreciate you coming. And I've sat where you sat, so you're more than welcome. So first one that's signed in is Rebecca Ritter.
Hi, I have a concern about the QBE building expansion. There are currently children ranging from 2 years old to 5th grade in school in the current QBE building. I have heard that their school has a lease until July 2018. I would like some clarification on how this expansion project can be completed by fall 2017 while maintaining a peaceful and secure environment for these children. That's my concern. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, next would be, looks like Steve, is it Davis? Dan, okay. Sir? Oh, you're fine.
So I'm actually a grandfather, and I'm also here to, my granddaughter goes to the St. Michael's School down the street that the QBE project is addressing. And I guess that, similar concern to what Rebecca just mentioned, we are concerned, actually, I must say, that we looked at the whole property and what they're doing, and it looks wonderful. Looks like it's going to be a great addition to Haymarket. But we just are concerned about, at this time, how that mechanism is going to occur. In fact, the equipment is being staged, materials are being staged on the property right now. There are construction workers starting to gather. You've got very young children there. Do people vet the actual workers? Do we know that we don't have any problems with workers there? There's all those kinds of issues, and of course, any kind of construction that's being talked about in that area where the classrooms are, particularly if I understand the plan correctly, it's going to go up 2 stories above where the classrooms are right now. I don't know how structurally that's even feasible. That makes no sense to be doing while anybody's occupying the building. I actually work in critical infrastructure protection, and we see these kind of horror stories all the time when somebody makes a slight engineering mistake, and then the result is the death of many people. And as you can imagine, you all would be in an awkward position if that occurred, not just awkward, as would the owner of the building. So we're very unclear as to why that could even be going forward without some kind of accommodation to the current lessees in the property. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, looks like John Carter.
Chairman, can I just make a comment to have the names and addresses spoken out so it's automatically put into the local record for folks that are listening?
Hi, my name is John Carter. I live in Haymarket, and my child also attends St. Michael's. The real problem I have with the Planning Commission considering the preliminary plan for the QBE expansion at this time is that it's not complete as a preliminary plan. They have not corrected all the staff comments that were made to the preliminary plan. The preliminary plan is inconsistent with the proffers that were given to the town of Haymarket, as was noted in the staff notes. If you actually read it, I mean, there's so many errors in this thing, it's unbelievable. The references to Loudoun County in the preliminary plan. Last time I checked, we were in Prince William County. We're not in Loudoun County. It's on page 3 of the preliminary plan. They say that Loudoun County will be reviewing the paving to see if it's a correct matter, correctly installed. In addition, one of the things I noted in the general notes is that they indicate that the closest school to this property is Tyler Elementary. No, there is a school actually in the property currently. So the representation that the developer is making to this planning commission is inconsistent with the lease that this same developer has with St. Michael's School, which requires them to use the property as a lessee only for a school. So the developer, who's representing to this board that there's no school in there and that the closest one is in Tyler Elementary, when in fact they're accepting rent and are in a legal lease with a party to operate a school at this time. Now, I understand this is not a court of law, and the school has to, the school may have to settle this in circuit court. But what the Planning Commission is deciding tonight is whether or not this is an acceptable form to be considered as a preliminary plan. And I would say to the Planning Commission, it's not, because it's inconsistent with proffers, it contains errors, and it has not been amended to satisfy the staff comments. Thank you.
Cindy Dam. Okay, sure. Well, you don't have to talk that. You just have to be you. Okay.
My only consideration is the children.
If you don't mind, we won't be able to unless you come up. You're very welcome. It's fine. Don't be afraid. I have to do this and
And if you could, again, just give us your name and address.
Cindy Dam, 10060 Valleydale Lane, Marshall, Virginia, 20115. I would just like to say that it's very confusing to me how you can have a sign out there that says that it's been put up that they're going to have property that's being sold in the fall of 2017, and they didn't even have preliminary plans approved yet. I don't understand how a sign got approved for that. Was that sign approved that's put out there? Was that you can't talk to me? I guess. Okay, but it confuses me. I do look at your town, and the building looks great. I do like the building. I look at how you have, looks like a rezoning, and I see commercial, so I can see that you guys have some great plans going on. But when you're doing that, it's really important to make sure that you put children, don't do something to harm children in your decision-making that you're doing. The school is a part of this community. It's been a part of this community for years, and it's an important part of this community. And I think that I'd be excited if I was doing all this planning that you have out here. And I think it's really important to make sure that while you're doing that, that you put the children first and their safety first, and that you care about the kids and what's going on in that school. I think that's really important, and that's just what I wanted to say about this.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, it looks like Joe Longobardo.
Good evening. My name is Joe Longobardo, address 8923 Burwell Road, Nokesville, Virginia, 20181. I'd like to thank the Commission for the opportunity to address you tonight with regard to the QBE application. I'm not going to try and top what John said. He was very elegant. I would join in what he said as well as the other people who spoke. I have sort of two general areas of concern. One, procedural concerns about the application, and two, substantive concerns. The procedural concerns are the fact of that sign that was just put out there. That's the way that all of us, many of us, learned about this pending application. And having a date of October 2017 makes it appear that this application is being fast-tracked without consideration of what the actual present uses of that facility are. My brief review of the application materials, including the staff report from a couple weeks ago, make it clear to me that the preliminary application is incomplete, as John noted, with many errors in it, and is actually inaccurate. Putting that in light of this fast-track application status makes it very concerning to me. The substantive concerns I have are just the scope of this project. I mean, this is not a minor project. This is a very major project. You're, tripling the size of that building. You're going to be affecting the nature of Blight Lane, Washington Avenue, neighborhoods, and the whole nature of the community. And finally, the application to me does not seem in line with the proffered use, sort of the history of the property. And it's for all these reasons that I would ask that the Commission either deny the application or table it until these concerns can be addressed and fully vetted through the staff. Thank you.
All right, Cher Munzik.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cher Music, M-U-Z-Y-K. I live at 8923 Burwell Road, Nokesville, Virginia, 20181. Here to talk about the QBE building also. So I have twins that are 2 years old, and they go to St. Michael's Academy. They are in a room in that beautiful building. I saw the sign when I drove in to take them in on Monday, and I was shocked to see it. I did some research, and I saw that Weichert Realtors actually already has 14600 Washington Street, Haymarket, $500,000 commercial properties, taxes $35,316, already listed for sale. It's shocking to me. It says coming October of 2017. It gives information about the business park, 2 stories added, 2,000 to 10,000 square feet, even rooftop common space available. It's shocking to me that this could be built and available October 2017. We haven't heard anything about this. Our kids go to school there every single day. we are stakeholders in this process. We pay $600 a month for our kids to go to school 3 mornings a week, and in the fall, it will be $1,000 a month. So this is a lot of money that goes into the town of Haymarket. And the minimum that we can ask for is safety of our kids. This is going to be a heavy-duty construction site by what I'm looking at. And it doesn't, I can't even imagine what it would be like. I couldn't take my kids there with that type of equipment, that type of noise. This is a building, a historic building that was built in 1935. I have no idea what has been done with lead and asbestos, what's going to be put in the air when this construction begins. My kids, that wouldn't be a safe environment for my kids. I want you to know that every time I drive in from Nokesville, I pass a sign that says Haymarket is everyone's hometown. And that would seem to me that you would consider children first and a place where families can feel safe. And this project, I think, puts my children at risk. So I really would ask you to be transparent and do your jobs when you go through this, and be careful, because you're dealing with kids. Thank you very much.
All right, Mary Ramirez.
Hi, I'm Mary Ramirez. I'm a resident here in the town of Haymarket off of Cheyenne Way. I didn't realize that was the thing to sign up to talk, so I didn't have anything prepared. But really, I am here because my daughter goes to St. Michael's. I'm a member of this community and have been for 3 going on 4 years. And I had no idea about this building being built, and I had no idea that it was approved to be built or remodeled, let alone during the time that my daughter is enrolled. If you have been inside that building, the ceiling just doesn't even seem structurally sound as it is. And my daughter is 2. She doesn't need to be near work equipment. She doesn't need to be near construction workers. She doesn't need to be in a building that isn't structurally sound, you know? And I feel like when you start to compromise the building through construction, excuse me, I don't like talking in front of people. So when you add in all of that, I guess as a town member, I really want to urge you guys to put our children first and the employees there as well. And, you know, this lease is a legally binding contract that should be respected, not just by the owner, but also by the town council to keep that owner, landlord, you know, accountable. And I just ask that you guys do that for us, please.
All right, anybody else like to speak to the Planning Commission?
Evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. Bob Weir, 6853 St. Paul Drive. Been a long time since I've been in here, and quite frankly, not long enough to suit me, but circumstances dictate otherwise. To those of you that are unaware, both on the Planning Commission and in the audience, I sat behind that dais for 10 years. So I can speak with some authority on these issues. And honestly, in the decade I served, I haven't seen a bigger cluster than this particular application. Not since Winterham 15 years ago. Quite frankly, I'm stunned that it's even on the agenda. I'm curious how you got it on the agenda. There are so many procedural and material defects with this application that it never should have got past the professional planning staff. And how it's here for action tonight is stunning. There are issues with the proffers, issues with the uses, issues with transportation, issues with parking, issues with E&S, issues with compliance with previously approved plans. And that's before we get to the elephant in the room, and people have sort of danced around it. This particular parcel, this particular property, these particular units were already listed. They're listed, and the listing agent is a member of the town council and a member of both boards. And that's stunning, that there hasn't been a discussion of that publicly, at least not that one I'm aware of. approving an actively listed project before it's approved, I mean, actively listing it before it's approved, seems to me to be the absolute definition of malfeasance. So you got a couple of options, and I know these options real well. You can return the application and have the applicant correct the deficiencies. You're perfectly within your right to do that, both within the ordinance and the state code. You can deny it for all of the deficiencies. Or you can do the one option that you shouldn't do, and that's conditionally approve it. 15 years ago, there was a similar circumstance with the Winterham property. 15 years later, conditional zoning, all sorts of shortcuts taken, all kinds of issues with regard to whose interests were being served, and that property is still only 1/3 finished. You guys are appointed for a term. You're appointed for a term for a reason. The only way you can be removed is for malfeasance. You're appointed for a term so that the political aspects of the town or political pressures cannot be imposed on you to remove you or influence you. You're tasked with looking out for the best interests of the residents and adhering to the town code and making sure that applicants before you adhere to the town code, the state code, and any ordinances and policies otherwise. I think somebody needs to take a real long look at how this circumstance came to be tonight, and there need to be some repercussions above and beyond just how you handle it this evening. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak to the Planning Commission?
Dottie Leonard, 14801 Washington Street. My heart goes out to these families, and I would think that there is something that could be done to hold off the construction until the school year is done. I'll leave that to you. That's your job. I just have to correct some things as a licensed realtor for 27 years. I'm not aware of any malfeasance if you're offering something for sale that isn't finished yet. That happens all the time. Every subdivision you go in that is for sale, that's under construction, is advertised for sale. The reason Winterham wasn't finished is because the owner died. Do you want to send to heaven to get him to come back and finish it? It has been sold. It will be finished, I'm assuming. I just want to say, God bless you all. Your hands are full. But as a realtor, I don't know who the realtor is that has it listed, but I had to defend that part of it. And I thank you for hearing me again. I came really to talk about the new plan. I'm concerned about that and would hope that as you're doing that, you would keep in mind the properties that need to develop in the town, because while I sat on town boards, while the previous speaker was on town boards, I saw things get turned down that are now eyesores in our town. So I hope you will keep in mind that as we're in this stage of progressing to a beautiful restoration of our historic town. It matters that it's beautiful. It matters that it's restored. It matters that it's contributing to the economy of our town. I heard one speaker say that the town's getting a lot of rent. We don't rent that space that I know of. So your hands are full, and my heart goes out to all of them. I understand where they're coming from. I wouldn't want my children to be, or grandchildren to be, where big, heavy construction is going on. I know that light construction goes on during school years at times, but when major construction is going on, they do it during the summer months. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? All right, seeing none, we will close citizens' time. Next up is public review, A 6680 Fayette Street preliminary site plan for a dog's day out.
Mr. Chairman, could we, because I think the interest of most of the people here seems to be directed towards the second thing on the agenda.
I would agree. I was hoping one
Could
of
we
you would
just
bring it up.
switch
Sure.
and tackle that? I don't know if we have people who would be interested, and then have a chance to leave if they want.
Right, for the sake of their time, and since most of them have kids. Is there any objection to that? No. All right, we will gladly switch it.
Chairman, with moving to agenda item 5B, I would like to bring a disqualification. This declaration is made, and I'd like to add this into the record after the meeting, please. This declaration is made the 26th day of January 2017 under the terms of the State and Local Government Conflicts of Interest Act, Chapter 31, Title 2.2, Code of Virginia, as amended, specifically 2.2-3115F, name of person affected, Connor William Leak. This transaction involved Planning Commission meeting March 1st, 2017, agenda item 5B. Nature of personal interest, real estate agent. Property address 14600 Washington Street, Haymarket, Virginia 20169. Tax ID 7397-19-1734. Under the terms of the State and Local Government Conflicts of Interest Act, I am disqualified from voting in the above transactions. I understand I cannot attend any closed session on this subject, nor can I discuss the matter with government officers or employees at any time. This was received by the clerk 2/1/2017.
All right, thank you. All right. All right, well, first of all, as the chair of the Planning Commission, I have several questions and comments. I guess the first one being, it's my understanding that the staff received the site plan, went through it, and there are multiple actions that have to be reviewed, that were reviewed, that need to be corrected and resubmitted, correct?
Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
Okay, and it's also my understanding that the action items to be reviewed were given back to the applicant to get with his engineer, and as of yet, the engineer has not addressed those staff reviews, correct?
Mr. Chairman, that is correct. Those preliminary comments were submitted to the applicant, John Davis, and to Sean Landry, the agent for Haymarket Properties, and the property owner on February the 13th.
Okay. And as of yet, I appreciate all these folks coming, but the Planning Commission hasn't seen, the only person that has anything on this are the plans that I got from you on Monday. And based on our previous workload with the zoning text amendment, I mean, I've barely unrolled it. So I'm curious to how we can, I understand advertising because I'm a licensed real estate agent as well. I'm also a public school teacher, so I appreciate these folks' concerns. I go to school every day. The bell's going to ring at 7:20 tomorrow morning, and, you know, I know how that goes. But I guess my point is, I chose to put it on the agenda because when you and I spoke, there was a chance that the engineer would have addressed the comments, and it's customary to get a project on the agenda to where we can even discuss it, because we cannot discuss this in closed. And there's more than two of us talking, then we're in non-compliance. So I understand these folks' frustrations, but at this point, I mean, the Planning Commission, the sign is new to us. I mean, I live obviously here, and I saw the sign go up a little while ago myself. So those are my comments. I mean, we're nowhere near ready to approve this. There's a lot of things that have to be done. So I'm just going to kind of go around the dais, and then we will come to a pretty fast conclusion. So, ladies first.
In light of the comments not being addressed and not being returned to Susanna, I do think it would be smart to table the decision.
All right.
In light of all the comments, I mean, we respect everybody who took the time to come out, and we care about your children too, and you need to hear that. And we also care about having things done in the right way, in a timely way, and with time for us to see the material. And I haven't seen any of it. I'm just telling you, I've seen nothing. Not talked about it. I did see the sign because I live in Haymarket. So I would definitely go with tabling this. We can't talk about, or we can't discuss something that we know nothing about.
My turn. This is the first that anything dealing with this building has come across the desks of the Planning Commission. I'm amazed that they could go forward leaving construction materials or anything else on the grounds of a school when nothing has been approved through the basic way that this town has worked in the past. I'm shocked. I would have said no to anything that we're just handed this thing tonight. There's not going to be any vote. There's not going to be any discussion. We haven't had a chance to even look at it. I'm actually sorry that all of these people came out and felt compelled to take their time tonight, because nothing is going to happen with this building at this particular time.
I'm glad I didn't go first, because I didn't know anything about it either, and I thought maybe I just missed something. I'm a grandparent of 13 beautiful grandchildren, and I would be very much concerned with any type of construction going on with my children, my grandchildren there. So I am 100% on tabling this. There's a lot of work that needs to be done before it gets to us.
That's right. And as far as the owner and the school, I mean, that's really out of our jurisdiction. We look at zoning and see if the thing fits. You go back to the owner, I mean, the school lease, that has really nothing to do with the Planning Commission. That's between the leaseor and the leasee. So, we obviously need time to go through this. We need the materials to the Planning Commission to even begin to discuss it. And, I'm not saying we're for or against it. Seems like a great project, but it's got to go through the proper channels like every other business in town. And I'm sure all concerned would agree with that. So, do you have any comments as a town planner?
I would just say that, the state outlines the process by which the Planning Commission acts on a submission. The project was submitted. We took the 10-day review period that is enabled in state code. On the 10th day, we determined that it was possible to go forward, although that there were many things lacking. We can't make a judgment, staff can't make a judgment whether or not they're likely or unlikely to get everything addressed within the 60-day window that is mandated under state code for the Planning Commission to make a decision. You all are given 60 days from the date of the applications being entered into the record to make a decision to approve or to deny or to approve with conditions. So this meeting is about 40 days into that 60-day window. March the 21st is the end of the 60-day window whereby you must act. So that's really why it's on the agenda. We got the comments back to the engineer and the applicant within a very reasonable period of time, considering the volume and the size and the scope of this project. We took a crack at it. and then we have to wait. We have to wait for the other reviewing agencies' comments to get addressed. This is the normal course of action. Most applicants understand that these things take longer than 2 months to review, and so when they get near the end of the 60-day window and they see that this is not going to happen, normally they will pull it from the agenda because the applicant drives this bus. If the state has said Planning Commission will act and answer the question, unless the applicant pulls the question and says, let me work on it some more and I'll bring it back when it's ready. And to be honest, that's normally what happens. I think it's beneficial for the applicant to receive some input at this point from the Planning Commission, from the public. I think that, I know that the engineer is working on the questions. I've talked with him by phone. I feel like he can address them, but I don't know what it's going to look like when those things are addressed. There will be changes to what's submitted now and what is approvable. I can't anticipate all those changes until I actually see those changes.
So, all right, thanks. So the engineer does have the comments of the staff, and he is working on a response.
Yes.
And then typically what's happened in the past is once the applicant makes application for the preliminary, then it goes to staff for review. You review it. You coordinate with the engineer, the said applicant, and once all that's been done, then you bring it to the Planning Commission. We do our due diligence, look at it, see if it meets the scope and sequence of the zoning laws of the town of Haymarket, and then it goes through its normal process.
Right.
One question, that 60 days,
yes.
If the engineer has to do his due diligence just as we do.
And normally he will ask for more time. That's very common.
Does
That's
that
why.
increase the 60
Yes.
days, though?
Yes.
Okay.
Only the applicant, and by virtue of him saying, whoa, I got stuff to work on, we're not going to have it ready for the night of the Planning Commission, and they'll say, we will, defer it and we'll bring it back to you when we're ready. But that hasn't happened.
So if they were to defer or ask for more time, then the 60-day
Yes.
clock would start from
Yes.
that point.
It would stop until they submitted it again. It would start back up when I got the second submittal.
So
That's when
as
it
it
stopped.
stands right now, we have to act tonight on this.
Well, no, you don't have to
No,
act
we're
tonight.
not
I mean,
acting
you
tonight.
could. Some action, I think, is in the interest of everyone, and that is to table it until the 21st, which is the farthest day out you could wait, to see if they're going to be addressed between now and the 21st, and have a special meeting the night of the 21st, because your meeting isn't again until April, right?
Right.
I mean, that's an option, I guess.
But
I don't know.
We were just handed this tonight.
Well, you were given it on Monday, because that's when we got everything together and the agenda was complete and we could get everything on the agenda to you. We did email it out, Denise emailed it out on Monday. You didn't get the physical paper until tonight at the
And
meeting.
you couldn't read the email. I mean, that's, unless you have a copy that you can run off that many pages, that really did nothing. It was too small to read, and
Right.
I even have these things.
And I don't have paper copies of that size for each member of the Planning Commission. That is another thing that normally happens. They'll go, how many do you need for the Planning Commission? And I didn't hear a peep from the engineer for weeks after I sent those. And I finally had to go, did you get it? So I just,
Well, whether it was email Monday, which I'm sure it was, or we get it tonight, I mean, it's something this size, 2 days, it doesn't make a difference either direction, because we have 60 days, and now we're bumping up on the 60 days. Today's March 1st, so 40 of the 60, it's already gone. So,
So without having a special meeting, we would have to either vote up or down on this proposal tonight.
That's not true. I don't believe so, if I may.
well, we can,
well, okay. And I think someone else who's already sat in your chair already did illustrate. The options that the state offers you when you give it an application is to say, yes, it meets the zoning ordinance. Yes, it's approvable. It can go forward to the final. No, it doesn't meet it. Approve or deny. You have those, I mean, that's your question. Because the 60-day window isn't closed yet, but it'll close before your next meeting, you have the option to table until, to see if those things could be addressed. So those are your three options. You also have an option to approve with conditions. But that really kind of, you won't see it again until final. There's a lot of unknown at this point. We are not sure how things are going to be addressed. I mean, I don't know how comfortable you are with that. I don't know.
We're not going to do that. So,
Yeah. So those are your
that's not
options.
an option.
Those are your options.
I guess my question is, to me, it would be the prudent thing to go back to the engineer. We table it. You go back to the engineer, and if we can get a special meeting on the books, great. If we can't, then they're going to have to resubmit, and we're going to have to start the 60-day window again. I mean, this is a huge project, a lot of people involved, and we would be negligent to approve when we haven't even looked at it. That would be foolish.
An understanding, you would need to approve or deny within that 60 days. So if you don't approve or deny tonight,
Right, I
then
understand.
you would need to meet again by March 21st to approve or deny, or it's automatically approved.
Well, if we have to vote tonight, that would probably not be a good thing.
Probably not. Now, again, the applicant drives this bus. They can pull it from the agenda and ask for time to address the comments. That is normal. He hasn't done it yet. But you did not send me an email, Sean. I don't have that. I don't have.
Sir, who are you, please? Name and...
John Landry, I'm the developer, the owner of the property.
Okay.
I'm the submitter. So I sent out an email earlier this week because I had concerns about some of the comments. We hadn't received all the comments. So while the town had commented a couple weeks ago, we still hadn't got DEQ. Prince William County had somehow misplaced the plans. So we're still waiting. We just got Prince William County yesterday or today.
Today, Prince William County did send.
We're still receiving comments back. There's no way I was okay with keeping this on the agenda for informational purposes to give you guys a heads up of what's coming because it's a very big plan. There's a lot of moving parts. We have a lot of comments. We're working diligently through all these comments. We're trying to change and appease certain things. Fire lines that, instead of having to rip up lights, we found another way to do it. There's a lot of different moving parts that I think add value to the project. But again, I think it was important for you guys to see what's coming, right? Understand the size and scope of what's coming for an informational purpose. By no means did we represent, and I don't know why you didn't get to
I didn't. I'm sorry. I did not.
know Kim called me, the town manager called me within minutes of receiving the email saying, I'm not ready for a decision. But, I think it was important for you guys to see for informational purposes what's coming, the size and scope. This is going to be a big project.
Right.
This is going to require some discussion. We are moving at a pretty fast pace. I've got to try to meet some timelines, specifically for to address some concerns that were discussed tonight. So in order to do that, we're working very, very hard. There's a lot of parts to a big development project like this and the success of a big project like this. But we do have, we've reviewed all the comments and we don't have real serious concerns about the changes that will be required. It's just a lot of work, right? So we don't think that the plan will change too much, but there's a significant amount of work to get a lot of the comments addressed. And yes, Bob brought up my engineer does most of his work in Loudoun County, but he lives in Haymarket, and it was a local resource that I thought would be
Right.
a great addition. So we've tried to, use a lot of, because a lot of the stuff is repetitive between the counties. There's a lot of commonality between our counties, so I think it's important to reuse where it makes sense. And we've done that, and we are addressing every single comment that has come back. But again, we received Prince William County comments yesterday or today.
Well, I think.
DEQ last week, which was 4 or 5 pages. A lot of information, but still, it may impact a few portions of that.
Right. I think to be respectful to the other business that we need to get to, I think we've talked about this pretty extensively. I would recommend that we table this. I recommend that you go back. Obviously, we're going to have to vote, but I would recommend we table it. You go back to the applicant and say, even if we had everything today, you're still looking at something of this magnitude that all of us are going to have to wade through and a lot of discussion. And the applicant himself, they're not even ready. So why don't we just hit the pause button and do this the right way rather than trying to fast track this thing and work together with the builder, with the engineer, and as far as the school, I'm sympathetic to them, but that really doesn't fall under our jurisdiction. To me, the school should be getting with the builder and say, hey, what's going on? That would be the first place. So, and I'm sure it can happen. We're all reasonable people. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could I have clarification? If we table it and it gets past March 21st, did I understand you correctly to say that it's automatically approved?
If the Planning Commission does not act on a submittal within a 60-day period, then it is termed approved.
All right,
And so if you table it, we got to have, again, that's right.
We would, excuse me, we would have to meet again. So I would recommend we table it. The town planner gets with the applicant and highly recommends that they just get all their ducks in a row so we can restart this clock and do it right, because we're bumping up against it.
If we're going to table it, and if Mr. Landry's going to restart, I'm wondering why we don't just deny it now to give a new clock start, because I'm not going to have the information processed by the 21st, even if I put the time in. I don't know when we'll get the second submission. I don't know if I'll have adequate time to do due diligence for a huge bit of information. So if we're going to be pushed right up the clock, and if we don't do it right, it's automatically approved, I just don't think that's, for me, that's not a proper choice, just putting it out there.
So we deny, then he has to resubmit the whole project all over again, which at this point, they're not ready really to submit it anyway.
Okay.
They are and they aren't, because there's a lot of unanswered questions.
he could withdraw it from consideration, which will stop the clock.
Which is the email I sent earlier this week for this agenda.
Okay, and I don't have it, is the only problem.
Town manager, and you were on the CC, so somebody has it at the town.
And you actually said, please withdraw this from consideration until we get,
We need more time to address.
okay, maybe it wasn't inferred that you were asking it to be pulled from the agenda or asking it from I'm just guessing, because again, I didn't see the email, but I think the language needs to be very clear. I would like to have time to address the comments, and I don't want the Planning Commission clock to be running, basically. I don't want the Planning Commission to feel like they have to act on it until the comments are addressed, if that is your meaning. Do you think we could have that in writing? Because that's really the form that it needs to take. It needs to be in writing. These requests do need to be in writing.
Okay.
Sure. If you want to do it by email, or you can write it with this pen, and I'll give you a piece of paper.
Because I don't want to be, I understand the project, but to do our due diligence, we need time. And you are correct. We have full-time jobs as it is. And this is so important, not only for the town, but for everything that everyone has said with all the comments. We need time to do our due diligence. I don't want to be pushed to make a decision.
Right, but, I totally agree with that. I guess from a building standpoint, that's outside of our scope and seek. The builder, when and if the project is approved, the builder, the safety of the occupants, that's a whole different realm. We need to stick to the zoning.
Agree.
If Mr. Landry writes tonight that he would like a time extension, do we now then have 60 days, or we just have 20 days?
No, if he pulls it from consideration at this point, then at the time, if he says, whoa, we're working on it, we're going to give you a second submittal, okay? It preserves his right to keep going without having to start over, okay? At the time he submits the second submittal, the clock picks back up again, and it's another 60 days.
Well, to me, we've already heard him verbally. He just sent an email, which sounds like he has, and then
You did send it?
then we can have 60 days. I think,
Yeah.
I don't want to cut it off, but we have other people here, and I think we've kind of beat this thing up enough, all right?
Okay.
So we're going
Do
to
you want me
need
to
a
go check and
motion.
make sure I have it before you do that? I'll run check. I mean, the chairman, do you want me to go
Sure,
check?
yes, ma'am, go ahead. We'll take a 5-minute recess. How's that? We'll recess for 5 minutes.
Yeah. I thought our flag was going to fall over. That's all we need.
I walked in here Monday for the other meeting. This is, going to briefly go in and handing you those plans. But, I guess my point is, we're wasting a lot of time because we're nowhere near ready to.
Construction equipment into the school.
Well, I walked by that property. There's a lot of levels here. First of all, why is it the owner corresponding with the school? It's basically the school. It's not.
That's why it's who he was. I apologize, y'all probably knew it, I didn't.
I guess my point is, that's something that is always done.
May I interrupt?
Yes.
right, we're going to go ahead and let's call this meeting back to order. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so it's my understanding we have in hand, Susanna, need to pull the plans. So at this point, it's off the table, and then we will get with you and we'll go from there.
Right, you have the initial submittal. If I were y'all, I would look at it, because you'll get a revised submittal. At the time the second submittal is done, we will immediately generate, we will wait for the comments from the reviewing agencies because it's their responsibility to get it to the reviewing agencies at the same time it's submitted to us.
Okay.
And we'll start the clock again within that first 40-day period. If it's ready to come back to you, then we'll bring it back. If it's not, we'll be talking to them about a third submittal.
So since it's been withdrawn, we don't need to take any action.
You need
because
to
it's
take
now-
no action
Now
tonight.
it's been withdrawn. All right.
Could I have one more comment? I know I'm a little bit past age 40, but it's very hard for me, even with glasses, to read this wee print.
Right.
So I would love it on something larger, because even with a magnifying glass, I'd be agonizing.
Right, and that is, well, the 6 copies were, we will need more copies when it is submitted. We'll need a copy for each planning commission member. And
We have one missing tonight, so.
that's true. That's true. Forgive me, one of the planning commission members will not review it because he has recused
Correct.
himself. So the 6 copies, one for each planning commission member. We need 2 record copies. One belongs to the public, and one for Holly and one for me. I'm sorry, what? Yes, sir. I will follow up in writing.
All right,
Yes, sir, I will.
we're going to move on. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right,
Thank
let's
you.
go on to the next item. 66 80 Fayette Street. I want to thank the applicants for hanging on, and hopefully this will go a little faster. All right,
Would you like me to introduce?
please.
Okay, so this is the application, is this on?
Should
This
be.
is the application for preliminary site plan approval for a Dog's Day Out, which is at 6680 Fayette Street. You have before you what I would consider, and the town engineer has certainly put forth the opinion, that it is substantially ready for a preliminary approval with conditions. And the 2 conditions that we would recommend would be that they address the rest of those minor comments, and that we address the buffer question. Now, there's been a change in the ordinance since the last time this sort of thing was done, and no one has come forward to ask for this type of a buffer adjustment or waiver or modification since the text was changed, I think in 2016, I think it was, when the text was changed. So I only just today got a legal reading and an opinion with the town attorney and the former town planner as to exactly how to handle that under the new language. So obviously I haven't,
Right.
I don't have any recommendation for you on the buffer. I have looked at the buffer that they've submitted. It is not approvable. So my recommendation would be to approve the site plan as it is submitted with the condition that the buffer modification is addressed in a separate meeting. My information from the town planner and the attorney are that actually has to be done in public at a separate meeting. It's a separate approval process. However, the site plan as it is could be conditionally approved, given that the buffer modification or that the buffer is constructed as required in the ordinance, either or, and those other comments addressed.
Okay. All right, did the owners want to address the planning commission? All right, again, if you could state your name, some of us didn't hear it, and your.
Oh, did it turn off? Whoops. I just gave another battery to it. Goodness. How about you go ahead and use mine?
Yeah, my name's Tucker Travis, civil engineer. My question was regarding the buffer modification request. I believe from the zoning I read that you had sent me, it said it can be approved by the zoning administrator. I didn't read that it needs to be approved by the town council or...
So the language is unusual, and it was changed since the last time this town addressed a buffer modification, and I was confused by it, to be honest with you. The thing that was, I mean, initially the buffer modification was addressed to Mayor Leak, which of course isn't appropriate, but who knew that? You know, nobody knew that. We haven't been doing this for a while. So meanwhile, I was looking at the buffer to see what it was they were proposing, and I was like, I'm not a landscape architect certified, but I do have a background in landscape architecture. I'm a member of the American Society of Landscape Architects. And so just with my background and my training, I wasn't completely comfortable with the question. But, you know, meanwhile, I'm waiting for the appropriate documents to be worked out. And I finally get to have a conversation with a former town planner and has, you know, who was working with the town attorney. And in the information that I've now received, the understanding is that it actually needs to be done in public at a public meeting. I can't approve it at my desk, which is very unusual. I said, I've never heard of a zoning administrator type approval that happens in public. But they were both pretty adamant about that, so that's why, I only learned that today. I had assumed that was something that I'd be looking at and addressing with the applicant later on this month. But since I found out today it has to happen in public, I'm assuming that it just is going to have to happen at the next planning commission meeting.
Why can't it happen this evening?
Well, I'm not prepared to give them a modification tonight. I'm not quite comfortable with what's submitted. I think they need to work on it a little bit more. And I'd already made that decision, you know, but I was getting ready to, I won't say I'm getting ready. I needed to have more information about exactly what form and fashion that took, and it's not clear to me from the ordinance what that was. So when I addressed the question to the two folks that were involved with the change in the ordinance, I received a surprise. Then that was that it actually has to take place in public. So there we are.
Okay.
Why can't we make an approval? Why can't you make an approval this evening on the condition of what?
Because I'm not comfortable with the buffer modification that's submitted. I'm not comfortable with it.
Can you make a recommendation on what you would be and a condition on what you would be?
I would be comfortable with them following what they talked about during the rezoning, and that be an opaque evergreen buffer, and that's not what they've submitted. What they've submitted is a constrained version of a 25-foot wide buffer into 10 feet, which isn't going to live. Those plants are going to die. And so that's why I can't recommend an approval for that buffer modification. I can't make that decision tonight. So I feel like we're going to need to have that at the next meeting. Hopefully we'll work it out between now and then. I was thinking it would be another week or two, and we get it worked out. They'd resubmit. It'd be like what we're expecting to see. It has to be an opaque buffer.
Why can't we just make it a condition on the opaque buffer?
Because my information is that the actual modification has to be granted in public. We're granting the modification that you submitted in public. That was my information.
Are we in public now?
But yes, but they haven't submitted that modification. I've just said this is what I could approve. They've submitted something I don't believe I can approve. That's all I'm saying.
We can't modify that here?
Well, I don't know. Can you draw evergreen trees for them all the way down the property line with a 6-foot fence? That's basically what I'm looking for.
Okay.
I mean, if you can,
we need to get that drawn
I think
professionally.
It is drawn in the plan, sir. The landscaping is shown on the preliminary plan with a 10-foot buffer. And because we weren't meeting the required 25-foot, we are going to build a 6-foot board-on-board fence to provide additional screening against that property.
My understanding is, at least with the last time I looked at it was the required plants for a 25-foot buffer squished into 10 feet. That was what I remember looking at, but I could be mistaken.
So in the letter we requested that we were going to plant the 10-foot to the most amount of plantings that you can plant in 10-foot and the plant still survive. And then in addition, we're going to install a 6-foot board-on-board fence for additional screening.
So maybe I need to look at it again because maybe I'm not hearing what you're saying. Are you saying that what you've submitted a picture of what you want to?
We submitted the preliminary site plan, which shows the plantings, and we also sent a letter to you
So that is what
explaining the modification we're requesting and the reasoning.
Okay. So you're asking because, the plantings didn't meet the requirements.
Correct.
Then they're asking
It did not
for...
meet the requirements of a 25-foot buffer. We planted it to the maximum extent you can in a 10-foot buffer, and then added a 6-foot board-on-board fence.
Evergreens. All right, hold still just a minute, because this isn't what I'm seeing.
Because we couldn't meet the 25-foot buffer, there wasn't enough space with the parking. So at that time, it was determined that given the space limitations, 25-foot buffers to become 10-foot buffers would be appropriate.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I do need more time.
Okay.
I do need more time.
Okay.
It's not something I can approve tonight.
Susan, let me ask you too, in your memorandum dated 1/23/2017, your comments are noted below there. Is that what they're addressing too? I'm looking at number 8 specifically. Yes.
The
Being
town
in
planner
being in
memorandum?
the line of work I'm in, my day job,
Sure.
I have a big concern with that. I mean, that's something that we got
Yeah,
to make
this
sure.
is a problem, and again, this is just preliminary. This is something that we don't always work out until final. And I was out there on the site today, and I walked the site, and I do have some concerns about exactly how the drainage is shown. But again, I feel like it's something they can probably work out between now and final.
Because I would tell you, we have an unhappy neighbor now.
Yes, we do.
And anything, and that's her property that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure that there is no drainage problem or it affects another property owner's property.
If I may. This will be addressed in the final site plan, but we show preliminary. What we plan to do is have a rain garden. We will be detaining water to state code, which will be detaining more than it's releasing currently. So there'll be less water outfalling with the finalized plan than there will be.
Yeah, I'll be anxious to
And
look at
again,
that.
these comments were on their first submittal. I haven't had a chance to actually
Okay.
even address the second submittal because I received it the day the agenda was supposed to go out.
Okay.
So I don't have comments for their second submittal yet, which is again why I don't have some of this stuff done. There's not enough time, and you all know that. So my point is, they really wanted to come to the meeting. I felt like, unlike the other one, they're very close. And preliminary phase is when we talk about some issues that really need to be addressed at final. And so generally, a preliminary with conditions is it's fine with me. I don't have a problem with these conditions being met at final. The one thing is the buffer question. We can address the buffer question in public at a second meeting. It's not going to stop them from continuing to work on their final. They can continue to work on their final. It shouldn't slow them down, is what I'm telling you.
Okay, let's start Commissioner Leak, and we'll just go around.
So at this time, you're saying that you need more time for the modification of the 25-foot buffer to a 10-foot buffer?
Well, I need time to actually make comments to the second submittal of the preliminary, but I think those comments are going to be largely addressable at final.
Mr. Travis, did your landscape buffer change between the first and the second?
No.
Landscape buffer did not change?
No, it was 10 foot. There's site restraints that prevent from sliding it, the whole site over due to outfall to the south of the project. So we've needed this buffer modification since day one.
All right, so I don't have a copy of the first submittal, but you're saying that this landscape buffer has not changed since the first submittal?
It has been 10 foot since the first submittal.
Mm-hmm.
So then how have we not been able to look at the landscape buffer since the first submittal to make an approval on it?
Because I received this piece of paper last Wednesday. That's when I got it.
So we formally sent, it's been like that since first submission, but we formally sent Susanna a buffer modification request in the form of a letter a couple weeks ago. So she did not have that with the first submission.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood.
I'm okay with the approved conditions. Sorry, I'm okay with the, it being approved with the conditions met. And then once we, address the buffer, then we're good.
What I have to say about the buffer is I know that Dogs Day Out people have worked hard to meet all the questions and the requests. And you remember that there were neighbors on the street who were opposed. And when the buffer changes from 25 to 10 feet, I'm basically thinking of their what will that buffer be like? Because we need to meet their needs, because their residential home is abutting your property. And I know you've worked to meet needs all along. I did not understand until I looked at the site plan that this was a specific variance from 25 feet to 10 feet. And so, and what I'm hearing tonight is, obviously, the request for the variance was just made. So I really can see this being, that buffer part definitely being held over until April. And we had talked to all of these on page 5 of our booklet, which I'm sure you have, which is the comments that Susanna Smith gave to you. There were 8 comments, including the last one that Mr. Shannon talked about, drainage. And we've heard Ms. Smith say that most of those, she feels, can be worked out, because you have worked out most things. So I would be okay with a preliminary site plan getting a conditional approval, provided those 8 things are worked out, and putting off the buffer question for another separate hearing at a subsequent month. Hope that's clear.
I had one question. The 8 comments, we've received one round of comments.
Right, right.
I believe
don't
we've
have comments
addressed.
on the second, and I believe you're probably correct. What I'm trying to underscore is that I haven't had a chance to make sure that you addressed all those comments.
Okay.
That's
I
what I'm
understand.
saying. And so we had, we said, go ahead if you still want to make the agenda, and we got it the day of. I wasn't here that day. I think it was the day after the last day I was here last week. But that's fine. They were of a nature that I believe realistically they could be worked out. They were not, it wasn't like putting that square peg in that round hole.
And also, Holly, the town engineer, has reviewed.
She had.
And she has
We do have the
recommended
second
for
round from Holly, which I
approval.
think is in your packet.
And I should have said, those 8 that I'm referring to were in a letter dated 1/23.
Yeah.
So it is an
Right.
earlier
Yeah,
letter.
we
so
feel we have
Right.
addressed those,
I'm
but she has
presuming
not
we
had
work
time to
together.
review them. Yeah.
And
Correct.
that's why I said a preliminary site plan, conditional with the, meeting all those
Understood.
specifics.
Could you, Mr. Travis, explain again why you were unable to meet that 25-foot buffer?
So the commercial property to the south outfalls their stormwater directly in the middle of the site. We will need to create a ditch and bring storm sewer back there to collect that stormwater. Therefore, you just need room to bring that. You can't build put your building right against a ditch or a storm sewer. So to collect that stormwater, we had to shift everything over to the right, which then started encroaching into the 25-foot buffer. We understand the concerns. We're not asking with this buffer modification just to get us a reduction. We want to provide additional screening with a board-on-board fence that's not required with the 25-foot, but we want to add additional screening. And we feel with the board-on-board fence, it's actually going to perhaps provide more sooner than a 2-inch caliber tree would provide from the beginning.
Okay. Thank you.
My biggest concern, obviously, the setback. That's the buffer. That's major because of those homeowners. But I'm okay with a conditional approval preliminary site plan as long as these issues have been fixed or have been taken care of. Okay. They've done from the first couple of meetings we've had, they've done their due diligence and everything. I just still share that concern with the one neighbor in particular. So.
All right. Any other comments? All right, do I have a motion?
Do we have a draft motion available?
I haven't made draft motions for this meeting, I'm sorry. Would you like me to help?
Just what conditions in particular you're wanting to
Well,
be
the
in?
conditions, and I would read down the side of the submittal right here. This is you'd call it out by using its name. Prepared, and use the date and prepared by. And the conditions being that all of the comments have been addressed. All of the comments that they have received have been addressed, that it meets the zoning ordinance requirements for preliminary plan approval, and that we address the buffer modification in a separate action as it is required. Is that helpful?
Can you, we'll take another 3 or 4 minute recess. Can you go back and just type that up real quick?
I'll be happy to.
Give it to all the commissioners and just let us look at it so we do this right. All right, we'll take another 5-minute recess. Thanks.
That was a great comment.
Yeah, that was smart.
Needs to be right.
Pardon? We've already passed that. As far as I'm pretty sure. Oh, I love this. Yes. They've done a lot of work.
This is really. Let's see what's written on there. Will comply with ARB. So they told us that they would comply with whatever the ARB. Exactly, right?
So we talked about this thing.
Ad nauseum.
is for probably a little over a year. And we said no first easement. It's going to meet the ARB. That's what we've been told.
That's what we were told. So if the ARB wants siding, then siding will go on, and if the ARB decides on brick, then brick will go on the outside of it.
Yes. Welcome. How you doing? For a little 1 square mile town, it's your.
It's a lot of action.
We have a nasal body replacement. Did Sean not go to the school?
I guess not.
We'll talk about it after. We'll talk about it. I'll call all of you.
Because I just, knowing him, to me, that's just dumb.
it's yours, because I think that we've done due diligence, we've included.
Okay.
So we're talking about three then.
Yeah.
Three then.
Thank you.
We're back in?
All right, we're back on. Appreciate everybody's patience. All right, do I have a motion about a dog's day out?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Planning Commission approve preliminary site plan SP 2017-001, a Dog's Day Out preliminary site plan, prepared by John C. Levtoff, Christopher Consultants, and dated January 18, 2017, revised through February 14, 2017, with the following conditions. 1, that all preliminary site plan comments have been or shall be addressed by the applicant in the methods allowed under the current zoning ordinance prior to the submission of the final site plan. And 2, that the buffer modification requested is approvable under a separate action by the zoning administrator at a public meeting to be held at the next Planning Commission meeting, April 5, 2017. And 3, that all requirements made by the Architectural Review Board for approval of the building are met. And 4, that if any of these conditions are not met, then the application for preliminary site plan approval is disapproved.
All right, thank you. Any discussion?
I don't think number 3 needs to be on there, but I can understand where some of the board members are coming from with leaving it on. That's all.
All right, let's just go around the dais. 3 stays or goes.
I concur with 3.
As do I.
I would say leave 3 on there. I think the IRB works hard, and I think that their insights are welcome.
Okay.
I agree with what's written.
Beautiful.
All right, I think 3 should stay. So we'll go. Do I have a second, as was?
I second it.
All right. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Shannon,
Yes.
Ms. Carroll,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Ms. Passanello,
Yes.
Mr. Leek,
Yes.
Mr. Caudle.
Yes.
Okay, that is 6 for the motion and 1 absent. So it is passed preliminary with the conditions, and we'll get that to you in writing so you know what we're doing.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Yes.
All right, any new business?
Goodness, I hope not.
What's that? Okay. All right, any, the update on the old business, we just had the joint meeting, so we're still waiting on the
You want a
corrected
clean
draft.
copy,
Clean
right?
copy.
Clean
yes.
copy with all comments and everything, and we
Yeah.
should have that soon.
Yeah,
I've
Darren
just
Coffey
talked-
said next week, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's cranking on it, so.
All right, sounds good. All right, update, anything that we haven't covered?
So many interesting things. I've talked with folks about the McDonald's. They apparently would like to do some work there. We talked extensively about the ARB process for changing that building. I told them how much we love it. We'd rather they didn't change it. But the corporate model is changing for McDonald's, and so I think they kind of wanted some insight. They were glad to hear that we love it, so, I mean, I love it, and I hear from the ARB that they love it. I hear from a lot of people that they love it. So it is possible, we were told, that they won't actually change much about it, but at least the door was open. Sheets, of course, is well on their way, going forward to getting that off the ground. They've gotten their bonding, I think, is right in there. I mean, they're getting those last documents together. I'm just trying to think, and if we could have silence, please, during the meeting, that would be great. I think we could hear. Thank you so much. There were other things. Let me just think out loud for just a second. It's been a very busy month, as you know. We have the Payne Lane property, the NOV, that is scheduled by the BZA to be heard on March the 13th. There's an application, it's an appeal of our determination that those are zoning violations over there. I did meet with the attorneys today. They have asked for a deferment of that appeal. They don't want to be heard on the March the 13th meeting after all, but unfortunately, because it's been advertised, because we've generated the notifications to the folks that are, their neighbors, and we actually have to get the permission of the chairman and some consultation about what that process would be were they to defer. So I'll keep you posted on that because I know everyone is interested. We do have a lot of interest on that property. I get a lot of phone calls about what could be done on the property, and they ask for the contact information so they can get in touch. I'm hoping something will happen soon. The firehouse property across the street, I feel like an application for ARB approval is imminent. They have a lot. They did not have a complete application a couple of months ago, so we met with them a couple of times. And I feel like that we should be actually getting the application tomorrow. The application is going to be to scrape the site and to do something else. So we'll see what that looks like. I don't have a feeling for what it's going to look like, to be honest with you, but I'm sure it'll be interesting.
So they're going to be asking for a demo permit, and then they're going to provide, which they have not done to you yet, but they will be providing what they're going to end up putting on it.
But a concept.
A concept.
A concept.
Okay.
And there's some other requirements for the demo process that they hadn't met, and so I'm hoping that those other requirements will be met when I have what I have, hopefully tomorrow.
Remind me, I apologize. Is a site plan a requirement for demolition?
It is not. Well, it is, but not at the ARB phase. The first thing is the ARB. There will be stormwater and things like that to address. If they scrape the site and leave it, there's one process. If they scrape the site and immediately start doing things, there's another process. So I can't tell you right now what that's going to be because I don't have the submission. But I figured that would generate quite a bit of interest. That it's right across the street. So those are the big things that I can recall right now. I appreciate you all's patience as we, get through these applications. They're numerous and all very interesting and all very, it's a great town.
Well, I want to thank you for your work. I mean, people out there listening, I mean, there's a lot going on in this little 1 square mile town. I mean, new interchange, Sheets, new businesses of which we're thankful are wanting to come in. So it just takes time to sort it all through, and there's a lot of steps. So we appreciate what you do.
There are 2 other things, one of which I think I gave you a letter, the letter that asks for a deferment of the rezoning and special use permits for the townhouses on the fairgrounds property. I think right at the bottom of your stack, Mr. Chairman. One piece of paper on letterhead from an attorney. It should be at the bottom. A separate piece of paper. Is a letter to defer that application, and we expect to receive the Lidl the Lidl site plan special use permit because they want to build something that's larger than allowed by right any day. So we'll be looking at Lidl soon.
We don't have that.
Well, it's joined. What they're doing is they're breaking Lidl apart. By virtue of this letter, they want to break Lidl apart from the rest of that site, and they're going to pull back and defer the consideration of the rest of that site until the Lidl progress, gets through the special use permit process. I expect that application any day for Lidl. Lidl obviously will also have to go through ARB. We've had extensive meetings with them about what that's going to entail and what that's going to require. We've talked about possibilities of how they might adapt their corporate model, which apparently they don't do very often. So but I think they're willing to do something. We've talked about brick and arches and things that might make it a little more Haymarket like. We're I think a little anxious to get that grocery store. I think people are asking about it. When's it coming? So. May see that soon. It'll be a busy summer.
All right. Anything else that the commissioner has?
ARB update. We've been working very hard with the owners of the Dog's Day Out to get a concept approved. we greatly appreciate their patience. I believe they're very understanding on our side of it, on where we're coming from to keep our historic overlay, but they're working very hard and very diligently to be able to get us a facade and concept that is acceptable by the ARB. So we've been working very hard with them. And I think that's about it for town council-wise. I don't think there's anything in addition.
I just wanted to say we've made the comment in private here. I just want to make it public too. Thank you for what you do. A couple of days a week you're here, and you get tons and tons of work. Being the newbie in this town, just coming up on a year, and I'm looking at how it's growing, the things that are going on, and being one of the planning commissioners, I'm excited about because I have say into this, so I get to see everything going on. And thank you for what you do. In the short amount of time you have to do it with. So that's all I have.
Y'all are welcome. I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you for
great
doing
town.
4 days of work in 2 days.
It's a great town. I really, y'all are a great commission. I mean, you are some of the best people that I've had the pleasure of working with, and I thank you. I hope that I can stay here as long as you'll have me.
I'm going to make one other comment. I was reading the history. In fact, we were talking about it, and I meant to bring the author and who it was, but one of the comments in there was that Fayette, right here, is one of the oldest streets in this town. Very historic. Right. So, for the owners, you guys are, if everything continues on, one of the most most historic road in this town, and that's important, and that was important to me because I lived down at the other end of it. So, you should feel very privileged, in my opinion. But I love reading the history of this little town. My wife and I are very happy here. We're pleased we're part of this, and I'll shut up.
I think there's a statement about this town that everybody came out just to speak, and that people's voices are heard, and that we work together to come up with a solution. Because even when you have opinions that clash, you can work to come to a constructive, agreed-on solution. And I think that's what we see on this committee. It's not personal, it's just let's make it better, make the town better. And that's what I like about this group, if we're saying that. I like that spirit of let's make it work.
All right. If there's no other comments, do I have a motion to adjourn? Oh. All right, sounds good.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.